Chasing Bullets, a history and critical theory of Dirk Warhard novels. The enduring popularity of the DW novels presents an enigma for contemporary literary critics. How does one analyze and understand a body of work which is so superficial in its content, yet which has achieved such enduring audience adoration? While many are content to dismiss their popularity as a result of the simple-minded desire for easily consumable and mindless content, I believe that the perspective misses a crucial element of what makes the DW novels popular. After all, he's not the only vapid action hero in pulp literature. So what makes his legacy so enduring? To understand this question is to understand the book's author, Jeremy Esterkoff, who wrote the books under a pen name D.B. Steele, did not always produce such simple-minded literature. The novels he wrote early in his career, while similar in theme to DW, walked a much more nuanced line in their portrayal of action heroes. For instance, The Flag Bearer Rests at Dawn depicts the struggles of two brothers on either side of a civil war, whose fraught attempts at reconciliation are complicated by the constantly changing messages of state propaganda. A year later, Esterkoff published Final Eyes, a futuristic thriller about a government agent whose desire to serve justice humanly is challenged by the encroachment of efficient yet thoughtless robotics into the world of law enforcement. Esterkoff has repeatedly declined to speak publicly about these early works, or indeed about any of his oeuvre. In time, he came to be known as an enigmatic recluse, someone who emerged from isolation only to deliver a new piece of work. His reticence to explain himself therefore invites a great deal of speculation as to why he shifted away from writing more nuanced material to instead pen Dirk Warhard novels. Of course, it's impossible to ignore the financial failure of his early novels, yet to focus on sales may miss the bigger picture. Esterkoff was known to have a contentious relationship with his publisher, who at the time was attempting to capture a more artistic and socially conscious audience, and so put extensive pressure on him to make public appearances for press and the reception of awards. Esterkoff bristled at the insistence, resentful of being asked to participate in the literary social world. We are then left to wonder whether the shift toward mass audience literature was actually a move by Esterkoff, specifically intended to rebel against the wishes of his publisher. Yet regardless of Esterkoff's intentions, what's indisputable is that the moment he shifted his efforts, he found immediate commercial success. His very first DW novel, On a Wing and a Bullet, became a global bestseller and brought the name Dirk Warhard into the public vernacular within 3 years. Esterkoff had published a further 6 novels in the franchise, including bestsellers Bullets O'Clock, Edge of a Bullet, and Knives at a Bullet Fight. Who is Dirk Warhard exactly? Going by the novels, he can be difficult to pin down. He is consistently portrayed as stoic and unflinching, yet with each novel he shifts sociopolitically in order to meet the needs of the story. The best example of this is the perpetual question of whether DW works for the government or not. The answer seems to change in each book. His role in the execution of justice fluctuates between being a public good and being a rogue renegade, sometimes even within the same story. Dirk Warhard also the embodiment of a stereotypical heteronormative masculinity. As the novels exploded in popularity, so too did they begin to attract criticism for their portrayal of Warhard's relationship with masculinity. As writer Laura Urhue phrased it, Dirk Warhard romanticizes male infantilization to an audience for whom contemporary expectations of masculinity have become far too nuanced. This and other criticisms resulted in a bitter retaliation from Esterkoff, who chose to respond to his critics not via public statement, maintaining as ever his trademark aloofness, but through the novels themselves. His subsequent novel, Straight as a Bullet, was a naked attempt to repudiate his critics by having Dirk Warhard double down on every one of his most egregiously masculine tendencies. In the novel, Esterkoff's longest ever, Warhead, makes love to over 120 women and kills dozens of vegetarians. The exact phrase, "I'm a man and nothing will change that," appears 26 times. It's at this point that the novel begins to drive towards a very specific thesis. Dirk Warhard is incapable of fundamental change, because he is who he is as a result of inherent traits rather than as a product of a social or political impact. For instance, the Bullet Complex, the villainous Dr. Schrumptick, genetically modifies DW to make him more compliant and passive as a person, yet Warhead's genes literally resist the transformation, rearranging themselves back into their natural configuration. Just moments after the procedure is complete, this is a recurring theme in subsequent books, such as Faceful of Bullets and Bullets Forever, wherein the villains become focused less on personal gain and more on simply trying to change Warhead. It's in this trend that we see the core appeal of DW begin to emerge. A repudiation of the value of socio-political change. Change is the only consistent villain of the Warhard novels. The only concept towards which he remains consistently hostile. Even Warhead's notion... Hold on. Even Warhead's notion of justice is malleable. At times, he considers crime necessary to achieve justice, while at other times, the elimination of all crime is the only path to justice. Yet, in no circumstances is change acceptable for himself or for anyone else. Of course, we are again left to speculate as to the exact nature of Esterkoff's personal beliefs and the content he was creating. Were we to see Dirk Warhard through the eyes of the author, who once penned serious and moody works of nuanced interpersonal intrigue? In this sense, the DW novels could be seen as a satirical lampooning of mass media interests, or are we to assume that Esterkoff truly did come around to believing in the fundamental righteousness of never changing? This thematic thread may have continued through the novels, if not for a personal setback. Esterkoff's brother passed away after the publication of The Bullet Hunts at Night, at which point Esterkoff's prolific pace slowed dramatically. The loss devastated him. After several years of silence, he emerged from isolation with a new book, Whispers of a Broken Bullet, in which, for the first time ever, Dirk Warhard becomes a deeply emotive character. Warhard monologues on the nature of pain for over a dozen pages, and openly cries twice. There is no villain or central conflict. Warhard simply travels from place to place, remarking grimly on the various people and location he passes. In some ways, the novel feels like a return to Esterkoff's early works. Yet if the response to his early work was muted, the response to Whispers of a Broken Bullet was hostile. Fans of the series uproariously decried the changes and demanded a return to form, whether as a capitulation to public response or perhaps a desire to distract himself with work of a less nuanced sort. Esterkoff abandoned the new angle on Dirk Warhard. His next book, Bullets Don't Cry, saw a decisive return to the Dirk Warhard of old. In this book, Dirk Warhard murders over 400 people, including the Prime Minister of every nation on the planet, becoming the Prime Minister himself in several countries. His tendency towards cannibalism, already alluded to in previous books, ratchets up with the invention of his new justice cannibalism technique. The book shows Dirk Warhard's complete regression into the most thoughtlessly violent and virile version of himself, and was adored by fans upon release. Bullets Don't Cry ended up becoming the best-selling book in the entire franchise as of the writing of this piece. Yet the series' resurgence was short-lived. A few years and a few novels later, a bombshell investigative report revealed that for an unknown amount of time, ghostwriters had been doing much of the work on the Dirk Warhard books. Esterkoff was at this point in his declining years, and his publisher had progressively been enlisting uncredited staff writers to take over a significant amount of the writing. It was never revealed what sections of the later books were not written by Esterkoff, or indeed if he wrote a single word of them at all. But those hoping to hear an answer directly from Esterkoff were crestfallen when he passed away a few months later. In the wake of his passing, the publisher openly turned to ghostwriters to continue the series, albeit strictly in sequel form. Sequels such as The Fastest Bullet Alive 2, even Faster Bullets, failed to elicit a critical or commercial response of any significance. To this day, the publisher continues to produce these sequels, still bearing Esterkoff's name, to a decidedly middling reception. The failure of these sequels and the question of the novel's authorship invites a question: what was it that gave Esterkoff's heroic protagonist such broad appeal in the first place? Whether he wrote from a place of satirical mockery or from a genuine belief in the need for regressive masculinity, Esterkoff's intentions were never truly dissected. His most enduring legacy, therefore, is not just the character of Warhard, but a collective disagreement over the authorial underpinnings of the Dirk Warhard franchise. It is a question as enduring and unchanging as Warhard himself, and one which will be irrevocably affixed to the institution of literary criticism. Okay.